Hello, and a very warm welcome to the English Story Nook. We are so glad you have chosen to spend your time and practice your English with us today. Today, we're diving into a story about a woman who begins to suspect that her online world and real life are being secretly watched. Get ready to discover a powerful story about the importance of trusting your intuition and the challenges of our modern digital age. Before we dive in, if you enjoy our stories and want to support what we do, please give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and consider buying us a coffee on Ko-fi. There's a link in the description below. Every like, subscription, and small contribution helps us keep creating great content for English learners like you. Let's get started. Mute me gently. The initial intrusions were subtle, like digital gnats buzzing at the edge of her perception. Rafia Soria, a senior data analyst at Transparent Opacus Nebel Insights, first noticed a liked post on her feed, a garish meme she would never have endorsed. Then came a comment under her name on a news article, its tone snide and unfamiliar. She dismissed them as glitches, the cost of a life lived online. The digital world was a chaotic, amorphous space, and she was adept at navigating its currents. But this feeling was different, a slow, creeping disquietude that settled in her bones. The true beginning of the nightmare, however, was not a glitch, but a direct, chilling message. An account named Silent Observer sent her a photo of herself, taken that very morning, nursing a latte at a corner cafe. The caption read, "Love the new coat." Then, just as her heart began to hammer against her ribs, the message vanished. It was an insidious violation, designed to feel both intimate and terrifying. She immediately confided in her best friend, Sabine Swiss, her voice trembling over the phone. Sabine, ever the pragmatist, was skeptical. "Are you sure it wasn't a prank, Raf? Or maybe you butt-messaged yourself? It happens." The suggestion, though well-intentioned, was the first faint whisper of gaslighting. It planted a seed of doubt. Was she overreacting? But the image was too clear, the message too specific. Rafia began documenting everything, creating a secret file where she logged each digital anomaly. Her anxiety sharpened her senses, and she started noticing things offline too. The way her colleague, Ori Lopez, would look away quickly whenever she caught his eye. The almost imperceptible pause in his greetings. It was probably nothing, yet it fed the growing dread that was becoming a palpable weight in her chest. The harassment escalated with a pernicious creativity. Minor but embarrassing errors began appearing in her work presentations. Figures transposed, labels misspelled, just enough to make her look careless to their boss, Gada Kostov. Her smart speaker would randomly play unsettling music in the middle of the night. The digital presence of Silent Observer became ubiquitous, a ghost in her machine. Messages would appear and disappear, referencing private conversations and inside jokes she'd only shared with Sabine. The stalker was not just watching, they were listening. The sense of violation was no longer amorphous. It had a clear, terrifying shape. The breaking point came when she discovered a sophisticated keylogger on her work laptop. With concrete proof in hand, she went to Gada. Her boss listened with an expression of practiced empathy, but her words were laced with a subtle dismissal. "Rafia, you've been under a lot of pressure. Perhaps a short break would help clear your head?" It was corporate gaslighting, masterfully executed. While promising a full IT investigation, Gada's tone implied Rafia was overwrought, her claims exaggerated. The investigation, unsurprisingly, was inconclusive. Rafia felt her professional credibility, which she had meticulously built over years, crumbling into dust. The feeling of disquietude had now morphed into a constant state of high-alert paranoia. Then, the stalker weaponized her own voice. Using deepfake audio, They left a cruel, mocking voicemail for Sabine, perfectly mimicking Rafia's tone and cadence. Sabine called, her voice a mixture of hurt and confusion. "Raf, why would you say that about my new partner?" Rafia's denial felt weak even to her own ears. The pernicious attack was successfully bleeding into her most important relationships, isolating her completely. Her initial incredulity at the sheer audacity of the stalker had given way to a grim acceptance of their cruelty. She had to fight back. She had to prove this was real. Desperate, Rafia devised a trap. In a voice note saved to her personal cloud drive, she spoke to herself, fabricating a deeply personal and specific memory about a childhood trip to a fictitious town in Finland. It was a piece of digital ephemera, meaningless to anyone but her. She knew the stalker was too arrogant to resist using it. The next day, it happened. A message from Silent Observer. "Finland must have been beautiful as a child. Did you ever go back?" A jolt of terror and triumph shot through her. She had him. She finally had something that an external party could corroborate. The efficacy of her plan was chillingly confirmed. Now, she just had to figure out who he was. With the new evidence, her fear began to crystallize into cold resolve. She reviewed her log, every screenshot, every odd occurrence, searching for a pattern she might have missed. She worked meticulously, cross-referencing dates of the digital attacks with her work calendar. And then she found it. A memory surfaced, seemingly innocuous at the time. Klaus Kondori-Kale, a charismatic consultant who had worked with their team for 3 months. He had been charming, intense, and overly complimentary of her digital workflow, her seamless integration of life and tech. He'd once remarked, "You leave such a clean, elegant footprint. It's fascinating." The memory, once a flattering piece of professional ephemera, now felt sinister. The palpable sense of dread returned, but this time it had a name. Klaus. She knew a direct accusation was pointless. He was too slippery. She needed to expose him in a way he couldn't escape. Rafia scheduled a last-minute video conference with Gada and Ori, citing an urgent issue with the VAR quarterly projections. Once they were both on the call, she shared her screen. But instead of a spreadsheet, she opened her secret file, the one detailing months of psychological torment. As she calmly narrated the timeline, from the first liked post to the deepfake voicemail, she watched their faces. Ori looked shocked. Gada's professional mask was slipping into genuine alarm. "And the final piece of evidence," Rafia said, her voice steady, "came after I laid a trap. I have been unable to get anyone to corroborate my story until now." Then, she executed her final move. "I believe in transparency, so I've invited the person responsible to join us." She clicked a button. A new window popped onto the screen. Klaus Kondori-Kale's face appeared, a confident smile plastered on it, clearly expecting a different kind of meeting. Rafia looked directly into her webcam. "You wanted an audience, Klaus. Here it is." Klaus was utterly nonplussed. His smile froze, then collapsed. He stared at the screen, his eyes darting between Rafia, Gada, and Ori. The sudden public exposure left him speechless. He opened his mouth, then closed it, a fish gasping for air. His carefully constructed persona of a charming professional shattered in an instant. I don't know what this is about," he stammered. But his flustered panic was a confession in itself. Gada, her face now a mask of cold fury, looked at Rafia with a newfound respect, a flicker of apology in her eyes. The insidious campaign was over. The sheer incredulity on Klaus's face was all the confirmation anyone needed. He was so used to operating surreptitiously from the shadows that the sudden spotlight completely dismantled him. He was nonplussed, and in that moment, powerless. In the aftermath, Klaus was immediately fired, and transparent Opakis Naval Insights went into damage control. A restraining order was filed. Rafia took a leave of absence, finally acknowledging the psychological toll. The path to recovery was not about forgetting, but about rebuilding. She met with Sabine, who was horrified and deeply apologetic, and their friendship began to heal. Rafia's final act of reclamation was quiet and personal. She sat at her laptop and, one by one, permanently deleted every social media account. It wasn't a retreat born of fear, but a conscious assertion of control. She was choosing to step away from the ubiquitous digital gaze that had been turned into a weapon against her. She understood the efficacy of her final gambit against Klaus, but she also knew her own well-being was paramount. She was muting the noise, gently but for good. That's the end of our story for today. It was quite a journey, wasn't it? It makes us think about how important it is to trust our own feelings. We would love to hear from you. What is one piece of advice you would give to a friend in a similar situation? Share your ideas in the comments. If you enjoyed the story, please like the video, and don't forget to check the description for the free PDF and other helpful learning materials. Thank you for joining us at the English Story Nook. Keep practicing your English and stay curious. We are excited to see you again in our next video. Happy learning and goodbye.